Is your shit on? I'm Johnny Massacre, and welcome to the Massacre Moment Live, or as I like to call it, the cheeky live stream number 5. Who's fucking with me? Give me a hell yeah! So on this show, we just talk about cool shit. We don't try to take ourselves too seriously. Today's topics, I've made 3 for you, and I'm going to let you know what they are now. So let's try to keep things as non-political as possible. So number 1, favorite food in your region of the world. I'm in Tokyo, so I'm going to be talking about Tokyo food and shit like that. Number 2, relationship advice. I'm probably the worst person to ask about relationships, but hell, guaranteed awful advice for you. And number 3, your favorite video games. Everyone has a favorite game, whether you're retro and it's Mario, or we're talking modern shit, PS5 and Xbox Series X, or even on a smartphone, because they count as games too. So let's try to keep the topics light-hearted. I don't want to take things too seriously today. Just want to chill a little bit, want to be warm and friendly, and want to bring people together and try to, I don't know, just not pay too much attention to the news and what they're telling you on social media, and let's just hang out together and have a good time. That's all. So really, you are the star of the show. This cheeky live stream is all about your comments and your questions, and I just love answering them. I'll ad-lib all my answers. I've got no plan whatsoever. That's what I'm all about. I've always been spontaneous since I was a kid, so I really, really like that. I don't know a whole lot about anything, but I'll do my best to entertain you, and I'll try to be as honest as possible. And that's the brief for today. Johnny looking like a whole Skywalker snack. Does Luke Skywalker even eat snacks? What is Luke Skywalker's favorite snack? I didn't see one little bit of junk food in the Star Wars universe. That's one good thing going for the Star Wars universe, aside from the whole Empire trying to kill you and take over the universe, is there's no snacks to distract you and make you fat. There's actually not a lot of fat characters in Star Wars, other than Jabba the Hutt, of course. I'm here to give you the magical damage. So hit me up with your questions and I will damage you magically, whatever the fuck that means on my Japanese shirt. Right, let's do this. Let's see what comments we got. Okay, there's loads of shit going on, fucking hell. All right, so I can't answer all your questions and comments. I realize it's just impossible. I try to speak as fast as I can, so I'm going to have to just scan through and cherry pick anything that stands out. If you use cool emojis, or if you're a Massacre member, a Massacre mobster, which is a paid subscription, then I'm definitely going to read everything that you say. Highly Unlikely says, you're going to apologize for the hippie quips? My hair is purple and I live in a caravan. I own chickens and veg garden. I'm a hippie, but I'm a Trump supporter too. Thought I liked you, but hey man, what can I say? I just fucking hate your kind. I hate hippies. Just joking. Hate speech. No, hippies. I used to call myself a bit of a hippie. I don't know why. I guess because I'm quite an emotional character and I make a lot of decisions and I make my judgments on emotion a lot of the time. So I used to say I'm a bit of a hippie. But I stopped doing that because I retired from being a hippie. Now I'm just a fucking Jedi. But that's all right. I'm actually surprisingly tolerant. For someone who's not a leftist, do you know what? It's all right to be a hippie. But most leftists in the 60s were hippies, weren't they? My mum definitely was on the hippie vibe. My mother, if you're watching, mum, mwah, love you. She went to Woodstock, for fuck's sake. She was part of the 60s big time. Apparently, a German woman, she used to hitchhike all over America and shit, just partying. That's amazing. Liberty Loving Beckles says, morning, y'all. Liberty Loving Beckles, do you ever sleep? Because every time I do a Johnny Massacre show, you're right here. Are you working? Are you a housewife? What are you doing? Right, let's keep going through some of these comments. So, okay, Jordan Durham, who is a Massacre mobster, and his name is therefore highlighted in green. I'm going to read his comment. Jordan Durham, and I believe he lives in Georgia. I think he said that recently. He says, hey, Johnny, what's your favorite speaker brand? Oh, I would love to answer this fucking question. So the best speakers in the universe are by Adam Audio. Adam is a German brand. And the specific speakers that I use are called the Adam Audio S3XH. S3XHs. And there's an upgrade to that model. I think now there's a S4X or S whatever. But the ones that came out after 2000, they have a cult following. I remember going to this wicked recording studio in London back in the day. And the guy he was talking about these speakers like he's talking about a beautiful woman. He was just saying that it's the greatest shit he's ever experienced. And he told me I had to get him. I did. I wouldn't even upgrade for the newer model. Adam Audio S3XHs. They have a ribbon tweeter, so they don't have the typical round tweeter. It's kind of made out of all these fibrous, almost like hairs. And it means the frequency response has an insane range. Usually speakers go up to about 22 kilohertz or 22,000 hertz. These go up to something like 50 kilohertz. The human range of hearing is from around, I think, 30 hertz or around 30 hertz or 20 hertz, 25 hertz, up to 20,000 hertz. But these speakers, why do they have a high frequency range more than double the apex of the human range of hearing? 50,000 hertz. That's because the frequencies above 20,000 hertz will interact and will either kind of build with the other frequencies, or they'll destroy each other and cancel each other out. And so the fact that these speakers are emitting sounds 30,000 hertz above the apex of the human hearing range means that those frequencies which you can't hear, and your dog might be able to hear some of them, will interact with the frequencies you can hear and give you a more clear stereo image. So they have a very high frequency range. But the best thing about these motherfucking speakers is the bass. So even at low volumes, the shape of the bass remains the same. I'll pump it up loud. I can visualize the bass. And when it's loud or when it's quiet, the bass has the same kind of mass for me, even though you feel it more at loud volumes. And I'll tell you what, you turn the shit up loud, it's loud as fuck. It's loud as fuck. It's 100 dB, 100 decibels. I do have a sound measuring device where you can actually measure how many decibels are outputted. So it's 100 decibels. That's the same as a drum kit. Adam Audio, S3XHs. You can see I'm very passionate about music, so that's an awesome question. And I really appreciate your question, Jordan Durham. Right, let's see what else is going on. Liberty Loving Beckle says, I'm a housewife. No, I don't sleep. I figured. Jordan's from Kentucky. I'm sorry, Jordan. Sorry to get that wrong. If someone said I was from Manchester or something, or Newcastle, I say, fucking hell, man! Don't fucking say I'm from that shithole, mate! I get well pissed off, so sorry to confuse you with a Georgian. Jordan Durham is, in fact, from Kentucky. Highly Unlikely says, I play bass, can't bear crappy speakers. Yeah, anyone who's into bass needs a wicked pair of speakers. That is a given. So, as for the topics today, let me start this off. So, favorite food in your region of the world. So anyone who's watching, please tell us where you're from and tell us about some food from where you're from that you probably can't really get in any other place and why you like it. And I'm going to tell you mine. So I'm from Tokyo. I guess I'm just going to say Japan and cop out and say Japan. I don't know too much about the difference between foods in different cities in Japan, but there's definitely a whole load of different foods between cities and regions. So people in Osaka, which is probably the second most famous city in Japan, they always talk about their octopus balls. Don't laugh, ladies and gentlemen. It's not those kind of balls. It is a dough ball with a piece of octopus in the middle. You can, of course, get that in Tokyo, but that's an Osaka creation. And every city seems to have their own food. Japanese people are renowned for their cuisine, and they're so fucking proud of it. They really are. So as for Tokyo, I'm always asking my Japanese friends, where is this food from? Did that come from Tokyo? And it's weird because some of the foods that you think are really old are actually quite modern, and some of the modern foods are really old. But I'd have to say, best food in Japan. Do you know what? I even wrote a fucking list for this. I've got the Biden teleprompter loaded and ready to go to aid me during my descent into Alzheimer's. So, yeah, I've lost my fucking list. But anyways, I can remember what it is. So, here it is. So, my number 3 favorite food in Japan is soba, which is buckwheat noodles. It looks like ramen noodles, but it's brown colored noodles. Soba. Americans say soba, but we say in Japan soba with tempura. So you get the soba. It's kind of, you can have it cold or hot. If it's hot, it comes in a bowl of soup. But don't do that shit. If you come to Japan and you get soba, do not get warm soba. Hear me out, because you're shooting your load too early with that. It's like a ramen. It's a bowl full of hot broth with the noodles in. Put some tempura on top. Tempura is fried vegetables or fried meat or fried fish. And it's delicious because the way that they add the batter, they kind of constantly turning it inside the hot oil, which makes it super crispy. And this has influenced many Michelin star chefs in the West, such as Gordon fucking Ramsay, mate. Don't do that. Have it cold. So when you have it cold, it comes in this tray, and sometimes you can get 3, 4, 5, 6, up to 8 trays stacked on top of each other. Japanese does have small portions, but as far as soba goes, you can stack that shit up. They give you tempura in a bowl next to it, and you can kind of stick the tempura on the fucking soba and munch it. Delicious. Then, when you're finished, this is the key fucking point. You got the buckwheat noodles, the soba, you got the crispy fried fish and vegetables, the tempura, and then on the side you've got a little bowl, and it's full of, I believe it's some kind of sauce. It's basically like diluted soy sauce, and in that is some onions and wasabi. So you take the soba, you dip it into this diluted soy sauce with onions and wasabi, you slurp it up. Do slurp it. Don't worry about eating the soba without making a sound. I know that's an abomination and blasphemy in the West, but in Japan, you're encouraged to slurp your noodles, and I'm going to tell you about that in a minute if my ADD doesn't make me forget it. But you slurp that shit up, and as you're doing it, some of the noodles break off in this little dish, which also has diluted soy sauce and wasabi and onions. Then, at the end of the meal, when all the soba is finished, you say to the chef, "Sumimasen," which means excuse me, and you say, "You arimasu ka?" You means the water in which the soba or buckwheat noodles were cooked. So he will say yes, and he'll give you a kettle full of the water that the pasta was cooked in, basically. And in the West, people also do this. Italians love to use the pasta water to flavor the dish because it has a little bit of extra flavor. So you pour in the hot pasta water into a little bowl with little bits of your noodles and onions and wasabi, and you fill it up and you drink it. Boom! Fucking delicious. Fucking delicious. So that's my number 3. And let me see what you are saying before we get back to the food tales. And I tell you about slurping noodles. Let's have a look. All right. So, Liberty Loving Beckle says, "Lol, I've been known to literally hug trees, girl. Don't feel bad." Hey, I'm not going to judge you, Liberty Loving Beckles. Highly unlikely. I'm used to the hippie quips. I'm 56. Okay, so did you live through the hippie era? In which case, tell us about what being a hippie is really all about. Is the stigma justified? Victor Illustrator says, hello. Hello, Victor. Jordan Durham says, I'm from Kentucky. Okay, so let's keep going. Joseph Howard says, Maryland crab soup. That sounds fucking tasty. Crab's a real cunt, isn't it? I remember the first time I ordered crab in a restaurant, I was with my English girlfriend at the time. It's been a long time since I had one of those. And I took her to a fancy restaurant, spent all my money on a Friday, and I was staying with her. This was up north somewhere until Sunday. Spent all my money on a fucking meal. Ordered the crab, the king crab, like a bad man. I saw it on the menu and I said to the waiter, Lada Marasi, give me the fucking crab. And the waiter said, are you sure you want this? And as he was explaining, I said, yeah. I used to be a bit of a twat back then. And I said, yeah, what? Just bring me the crab. I know what I'm doing. Crab comes covered in gravy. And you've got some pliers to crack the shell. And then you've got this weird instrument to dig out the crab meat. And so you crack the shell. And when I cracked it, all of the shell went into the crab and mixed with the meat. And all the gravy went in there as well. I like to eat a lot of volume, and all I could get out was a little pea-sized bit of crab after every 5 minutes, and that was a disaster. So that kind of put me off crab, but crab is kind of special, isn't it? Treasure in life doesn't come easy. The crab meat is the little treasure of the ocean, right? That motherfucker's got claws and shit. He's gonna stab you. He's gonna pinch you. You have to get through that. You get through that shit. You got to crack the motherfucker's shell, and then at last you can get the treasure. So it's a real delicacy. I do like crab. Surprisingly, in Japan, they don't eat a lot of crab. You don't see it that often. But it is still a delicacy out here, I would say. So Joseph Howard, he likes Maryland crab soup. Now, we're going to Mississippi. Liberty Loving Beckle says, fried catfish or fried chicken and cornbread. So cornbread, that is some American shit if I ever heard about it. Why do I love cornbread even though I've never had it? Well, in one of my favorite movies, top 3 movies of all time, Aliens, one of the soldiers is eating cornbread, and I just thought, okay, that's some American shit. I love this film, so that's got to be cool. What the fuck is cornbread? Bread made out of corn, I guess, instead of regular flour. But isn't regular flour made out of corn? I don't fucking know. Anyways, that sounds very American. Catfish, definitely won't find that on a Tokyo menu. And you certainly won't find that where I'm from in England or where my mother's from in Germany. That does sound cool, though. Highly unlikely. See, I like this answer. This is quite sophisticated. Highly unlikely says Cornwall clotted cream because it's the thickest cream you can spread like butter, topped with jam. See, enough talking about my shit. I want to talk about your shit. This is way more interesting than my shit. Okay, so does that mean you're in England? Highly unlikely. Is it likely that highly unlikely is in England? Might be. Okay, Cornwall was in the southwest of England, I believe. I hated going there as a kid because I wanted to go to the fucking arcade and play video games. But my dad would take us to Cornwall. Now I'm a bit older, I understand why. Wanted to get some peace and quiet. Anyways, when you're a kid, you don't want to go to Cornwall. Dad, there's nothing there. It's all countryside and shit. Cows fucking everywhere. Fuck all. Anyways, clotted cream from Cornwall is sexual. So now that shit is what you're supposed to put on a scone, darling. Would you like a scone to go with the picnic? So my dad, last time I went back to England in the summer, this is about 4 or 5 years ago, my dad's so fucking British, he literally brought out the tea and scones and the jam, and they put delicious jam with a bit of clotted cream, rich, creamy Cornwall clotted cream. And clotted cream is different from regular cream. It's so... How to explain this shit? It's fucking hard to explain. It's very thick, basically, and it's super, super rich and has a unique taste that's kind of unlike any other cream. Have you seen how they make clotted cream? Fucking weird. They stick it in an oven, I think. They put some creamy shit in a roasting pan. Or a baking pan, as my American friends might say. Is that what you call that shit? Anyways, they put it in the oven and they roast the fucking cream and comes out all hard and shit. Anyways, point is, highly unlikely he's got good taste. Clotted cream is so good. You put it on the dry ass scone and you put some jam as well. Oh my God. I don't usually indulge in all the British stereotypes. I don't like tea. I don't like all that shit. But scones, or scones, as the posh people call it, are fucking delicious. So highly unlikely he has got good taste. Okay, liberty-loving Beckles hogging all the question time on the Johnny Massacre show. You are more than welcome to hog my question time because you're from the South. And I favour you because you're from the South, just how a lot of leftists will favour you based on where you're from, just going by their ideology. She says biscuits and gravy, especially, and gravy chocolate. Gravy chocolate, what? You mean melted chocolate sauce? Biscuits and gravy, maybe... and then chocolate especially. Okay, biscuits, right? In England, a biscuit is a cookie, right? So you say cookie. Dad, I want a cookie. We say, Dad, I want a biscuit. Cookie has a kind of warm, fuzzy memory for me. So I'm not going to hate on the etymology of that particular sweet treat. But biscuit, that's a bit more British, yeah? You want some biscuits? Your grandmother will bring out a whole fucking rack of biscuits. There's the jammy dodger, mate, crunchy one with a little jam circle in the middle. And there's the fucking hobnob, mate. Sometimes just oats and shit. And sometimes with a bit of chocolate on top. So we got all kinds of biscuits. When Americans say biscuits, it means scone. So basically a biscuit, as far as I can see in America, is you stealing our scones and then stealing one of our words and applying that word to something you've stolen just to make everyone confused, right? Okay, let's settle this today. Massacre mobsters. Scones, UK scones, and American biscuits, is that shit one and the same? You tell me. And if they're not, what is different? Because I know you American crazy people put gravy on your scones. No. But I've never tried it and I will because I'm quite adventurous. All right, rambling a bit now. Let's keep going. Loving the comments. Imogen Crenshaw says, boring old Virginia, good oysters if you know where to go. See, I had no idea about that. Okay, so oysters in Virginia. So this is going to sound really fucking bad. And when this show hits 300,000 subscribers and Media Matters is scoring and kind of filing through all my old episodes to try to discredit me and make me look like an idiot, they're probably going to come across what I'm about to say and highlight it in order to discredit everything I say in the future. But is the sea, is the ocean next to Virginia. I'm pretty sure it is, right? Virginia's kind of, it must be. It's on the East Coast. It's underneath New York, right? I got that right. So it must be by the sea if it's famous for oysters. Anyways, oysters. My first oyster was in a la-di-da posh London restaurant. And I went there and I said, I wouldn't mind some oysters. What do you have? And the man, he looked at me and he said, well, we've got 3 different types. And he advised me on how to eat the oyster because it's rather terrifying. My only experience of the oyster has been in gangster films where some fat bastard necks the oyster. And I thought, do I have to swallow it whole without chewing? And the garçon, he told me, some people swallow the oyster whole. Other people chew it a little bit in the back of the mouth before swallowing it to release the flavor. So that is my style and technique, if you will, of eating the oyster. Put it in, chew it a bit, swallow it. There's something weird about oysters because usually you associate fulfillment and satisfaction stemming from what you eat from chewing it, right? I mean, it's an obvious thing to say, but you chew it to release the flavor. But oysters, it's not really about that. It's not really about that. You wolf it down, you swallow it whole, and that is satisfying in a different way. It's a really, really odd eating experience, but it's really good. And the first time you do it, it's a bit scary, but oysters are pretty fucking sexy. Just don't get food poisoning from that shit. Holy, you've heard about that? People getting food poisoning from oysters? That shit is not a good idea. Right, let's keep going through the questions. See what's going on. Okay, so we're starting at... Well, I'm getting hungry now. So this is what I wanted. I wanted to make everyone hungry. Then we can all be hungry together and we can go stuff our faces later. So Jordan Durham says the Kentucky delicacy has to be beer cheese. What the fuck? That goes well with everything. What? Beer cheese. So the cheese is made from beer, or it's beer. Obviously, it's not beer made from cheese because we're talking about food. Cheese made from beer. That sounds kind of weird. Is that what it is? Literally? Can you explain that to me, Jordan? So Rourke Ram says, hey, Johnny, it's Loopy. Been a minute. So you're Loopy Lamb and you've changed your name. Rourke Ram, you are an official Massacre mobster. You have a Massacre membership, and I'm very grateful for that. Thank you. Okay. So, highly unlikely says, I was born in 1965, late hippie. But yes, most hippies are lefty idiots who spend time campaigning for government help instead of getting on with it. I'm not a feminist. I despise them. I'm highly unlikely. Well said. Like your comment a lot. Joseph Howard said, catfish sounds delicious. See, I don't want to turn this sexual, but my next topic for today is relationship advice. I want you to ask me for relationship advice because I give the worst advice ever and it's probably going to be quite comical. But someone said catfish sounds delicious, responding to what someone else said about recommending their local delicacy, which is catfish, which I believe she said is from Mississippi. And so I don't want to make this sexual, but you might know if you've watched previous cheeky live streams that my crush is Hannah Barron, who I believe is from Alabama. And she became famous from pulling giant catfish out of the water. And I have to be honest, Joseph Howard, but that shit doesn't look delicious. That looks ugly as it's a literal monster. You know, you tell kids, don't worry, darling, monsters aren't real. Well, I'm sorry, motherfucker, but they are real. And they are catfish. It's a giant monster. Monsters are real. And they are catfish. And so, I don't know, mate. I don't know. Ugly things, are they tasty? How many ugly animals are really that tasty? Cows are kind of, they're not beautiful, but they're not ugly. There's something weirdly majestic about cows in a kind of slow, grass-munching way. Ugly animals that taste good? Crabs. Okay, so we've come full circle back to the crab. They're ugly as fuck, but they're delicious. So you know what? Give catfish a chance, as John Lennon might have said in his LSD-induced delirium. Okay, here we go. Let's ramp it up. Rourke Ram, the YouTuber commenter formerly known as Loopy Lamb, says, I do love me some swordfish steak, man. I haven't had that for a while, but apparently they got to hack that shit with a fucking hacksaw or get a mini chainsaw to cut that motherfucker up. That's how I want my food to be prepared, with a fucking chainsaw. Hell yeah! Swordfish steak, delicious. Haven't had it in a long time. I remember having it once, one of the tastiest things I've ever eaten. Plus the novelty of knowing this is it's another monster, right? With a sword on its face. It's got a sword on its face. And that was killed for your plate. Excellent. I For some reason, I like that idea, right? If it's a kind of crazy monster, it's nice knowing you killed a crazy monster and ate it for some reason. It just taps into my primal desires. But I had it another time and it wasn't good. But I blame that on the restaurant. Lisa Lister says, cornbread is delicious. Okay. Liberty Loving Beckle says, cornbread is made with flour and cornmeal with some eggs and milk. Sounds quite heavy on the carbs. See, I've started my 0 carb 2-week carb fast thing. I've done it so many times before, it doesn't fuck me up. The first time I did a 2-week 0 carb, it's like having influenza. It's like having corona. For 7 days, you feel fucked. But then after that, you feel great. And now I'm doing a 2-week no carb fast. So cornbread is completely off the menu. And probably I don't want to eat refined carbs like that ever again. But if I come to America this year, when I come to America this year, I might have a little nibble, darling. Can I have a nibble of your cornbread? Because back in England, we don't have that. We've got scones and we've got Hovis. Hovis is the most famous brand of bread, but we do not have the cornbread. So I might have a little nibble. Can I have a nibble on your cornbread, darling? Oh, thank you. Oh, shit. Okay. This is a great question. We've got colourful examples of food coming from all angles now. Misuchi Miss says, a watermelon is crazy expensive in Japan, as is all fruit. You want to know how much that shit costs? A square watermelon costs about $130. I've seen grapes that cost $300 for a bunch of grapes, or $400. I've seen crazy shit out here. You wouldn't believe it. See, fruit is a fucking status symbol out here, right? In England, fuck it, just put as much fruit in the bag as possible, well cheap. Just fucking knock it off the bush, mate. Catch it in the bag. Some fell on the floor. Fuck it, scoop them up, put them in. We don't think about quality, and it's definitely not a status symbol. It's definitely quality over quantity. But in Japan, it's not just about the taste, which is fucking awesome. It's about the form and the aesthetic of the fruit. So in England, if something looks too pretty, we're suspicious. What? Why does that fruit look so fancy, mate? It's a fucking scam, mate. It tastes like shit. But in Japan, no. It looks good and it tastes good. And they have this 1% yield that's nearly impossible to make, where it's the perfect form, the perfect taste, insanely juicy. They got Japanese farmer motherfuckers looking after it 24/7, sleeping with it, spooning it, making sure it's all right. Apparently there's armed guards around some of this fucking fruit. So I hear. And that's why it's so fucking expensive, basically. And it's a status symbol. I remember I bought these expensive grapes. I was walking around town with my fucking grapes, mate. Look at my grapes, you cunt. I didn't want to eat it but I had to eventually because it's going to go moldy. So at that point, I did consume it, but it is a status symbol out here. Okay, so highly unlikely lives in Cornwall near Newquay. I went there. I've been there, and I think I went fishing there pretty much the second time I've only gone fishing, and it was awesome. We did trolling, right? Not internet trolling. Way before that, you get a line and you troll it in the water, and you want to catch fish. Lisa Lister says, we go, quote, mushroom hunting, end quote, then fry them up and eat them, yum. Isn't that a bit dangerous? See, I don't want to be the anxious cunt who ruins all your fun, but mushrooms, they can make you dead. So I don't really want to go out picking things that make me dead. If you get that shit wrong, you're in trouble. In Japan, do you know what the most famous expensive mushroom is? Listen carefully, kids, if you like mushroom. Matsutake mushrooms. Now that shit, mad expensive. Those motherfuckers have armed guards as well. They're very aromatic. They have a kind of particular nutty smell that's rather distinct, and it's pretty fucking good. I had it once, and it's damn good. Okay, so what about magic mushrooms? Do you go picking magic mushrooms and shit? Do you want to hear my magic mushroom story? Worst day of my fucking life. Okay, let's keep going. Chocolate gravy. So there is such a thing as chocolate gravy, believe it or not. Okay, let's keep going. Right. So, Liberty Loving Beckle says, I've only had magic mushrooms once on some Oreos. Mushrooms and Oreos. Not sure about that, mate. You must have been fucked up. Okay. Highly unlikely. Custard creams. Bourbons. See, that's some British shit. Custard creams, it's some really fucking pikey biscuit, but it's pretty fucking good. It's pretty much how you'd imagine it to be. Zen Kakuji says American biscuits are not sweet. But scones are not sweet either, right? it's only the cream and the jam that makes it sweet. So this still hasn't answered my question. American scones and American biscuits and British scones, are they the same? Okay, Misuchi Miss is the first one to clear this up. She says scones have sugar, biscuits generally do not. But otherwise, they're the same, right? Highly Unlikely says cheese scones have no sugar. Okay, getting confusing. Tom Christopoulos, I'll give him a hell yeah. He's giving me a $10 donation without any comment. He's just keeping it real. Thank you so much, Tom. You are the man. Liberty Loving Beckles doesn't like oysters. She says they're gross. Highly Unlikely says love oysters. So we've got the whole range of opinions. Don't get into a tiff in the comments. Be respectful of one another, please. Oh God. Okay, things are getting a bit gross with the food comments. So I'm gonna have to blaze through this. So Jordan Durham clears up the beer cheese fiasco. He says beer cheese is cheese dip with cheddar cheese with beer and peppers cooked in it. I guess I just have to try it. Someone's asking me what a square watermelon is. Japanese actually make square watermelons. They cultivate them within square perspex growth chambers, if you will, like little pods, and they grow and fill out the shape of the container. And they also make triangular ones. I've seen pyramidal watermelons in Japan. So let's change the subject a little bit. But first I want to tell you about slurping your noodles, right? So if you ever come to Japan, slurping is legit. Why do people slurp? Well, it's two reasons. Number one, it's so you don't burn your mouth, because the ramen comes, you're fucked up. It's 5 in the morning, 6 in the morning. Come out of the club, go get your ramen. It's so fucking hot, you don't want to burn your mouth. So you slurp it, and you don't go halfway. It's like a comedian or an actor. If you go halfway, you just look like a pussy. You've got to commit 100%, even if you look like a fool. So slurp those noodles up. That's how you're supposed to do it. If you don't and you try to be respectful, it's going to burn your fucking lip and everything. So you want to do it as fast as possible. Secondly, it makes the chef happy. For some reason, Japanese people don't hate that sound. It means you're enjoying it. You're eating like a pig, like a fucking animal. The deliciousness of the chef's cuisine has reduced you into a primal state. You've forgotten about the universe and you reverted to the animal. And you're fucking feasting on his creation. So he's so happy. That's his life's work. And the sound of slurping means you love it. So don't be afraid of doing that shit, people. I've asked hundreds of Japanese whether they give a fuck about slurping. Not that kind of slurping. And most of them say it's fine. Only one Japanese in my life said they didn't like the sound of it. So slurp your fucking noodles. And it's quite fun. It's quite fun doing it. For some weird reason, it's weirdly enjoyable. Right. Okay, so my other favorite foods in Japan, number 2 is tsukemen, which is thick white noodles, and you dip them in very, very rich sauce and you slurp them up. More slurping. So you know I like carbs. That's why I have to get away from it on my carb diet. And number 1 is yakitori, grilled chicken. So next topic is relationship advice. So if you want to hear a car crash in phonetic form, please ask me some questions about relationships and I will give you my horrific advice. So please hit me with some of this. Now, let's see what you're saying in the comments. So, I guess I should talk about relationships to kick this one off, shouldn't I? All right, relationships. Fucking hell. Where to fucking start? I am not married. I am single. And I think I know what I like. I know what I love. And I love music. I love doing YouTube. And you know what? Maybe it's just me. Maybe it's not them. But I find it challenging, shall we say, testing, shall we say, fucking difficult, to find a woman, a lady, who can accept I'm so dedicated to my passions and hobbies. What I want is some woman who just lets me get on with it, doesn't bug me. Johnny Massacre, give me a... No! Shut the fuck up. Let me do my... But that's even worse. Having a girl in the same room while you're doing your YouTube, oh my God, that's... You can't really be yourself, right? So... If I really was to be myself in front of people, relationship would be over. And so I have to date Japanese women who don't understand any English, so they don't dump me when they watch my YouTube show. But this is a funny thing, right? Women kind of like fame, right? And so I don't have a lot of YouTube subscribers, but 11,000, 12,000 is more than the average schmuck. So I'm not going to lie. When I go on a date and a girl asks me what I do, one of the things I'm going to say is I do YouTube, because I think a YouTube is quite attractive, right? That's not why I started it. I started YouTube just to promote my music. But look, if you want to do music and you do YouTube as a side project, why is anyone doing music? Why does anyone want to be big? Men want just a few things: money, power, and women. So I think the base motivation for any man to do anything is basically to get a hot chick. So using that logic, if I go on a date, I'm going to say, look, I do YouTube, just because I'm being honest. And also, I've got this many subscribers. Maybe I'll impress her a bit. Maybe. That's not why I do this show. I want to make that very clear. And there's a massive problem there, because as soon as I tell them, they look at it. If their English is good, they hear what I'm talking about. And this is unfiltered rawness, right? And I want to say, look, when I meet a chick, I'm completely myself. But what? I'm going to meet with a chick and be like, yeah, mate, Donald Trump, I fucking like him. Most people don't like him, but I'm just going to be chill, kind of find out what they're like and stuff. So I got to stop doing that. I've got to stop going on dates and giving the chicks my YouTube, because they'll watch it. But you know what? It's always fine. This is how, I don't want to go political, but this is how polarized we are these days. Whenever I give my YouTube, it's always when things are going really well. And I say, look, I don't really want to send you my YouTube. They say, why? And I say, just don't hate me. Just don't hate me, because people get triggered. People are being conditioned by mainstream media to just hate other people and become tribalized as part of the American government's political strategy. That's what they want, is people to be tribalized. I love Trump, fuck you. And the other side, I fucking hate Trump, fuck you. That's what people have been conditioned to believe. So if you watch my channel and you listen to political stuff and you've been conditioned by some of that media, you're going to get triggered. So whenever I give my YouTube to a girl, I've got to say, look, I literally say, just don't hate me. Just don't hate me. And do you know what? The good thing is, even the liberal ones, the girls you think would be triggered as fuck, 95% don't give a fuck about my political opinions. And that gives me a lot of hope, because if you're locked down and you've forgotten what real life is like face to face, and you're just going through the big brother, left wing, mainstream media and big tech, then you're going to think, if you don't think like a leftist, everyone's going to hate you. And probably the other way around. If you're on the other side, you're going to think the other side's going to hate you. But in reality, I've found through dating, most women don't give a fuck. And I think that's awesome. But you know what? Speaking about politics and religion on a date, what's wrong with me? How have I gotten to this place where I almost define myself by my political beliefs? I don't know. I don't fucking know. Do I talk about politics too much? Do you even care about politics? Should we just talk about other shit like this live stream? Every other Johnny Massacre show. You tell me. Anyways, I've given you enough time to ask me a few questions. So let's see what we've got going on. People are still talking about square watermelon in the comments. Maybe that was a more appealing topic, but let's see what you've got. Give me what you got. Someone wants to know about my mushroom story. Natasha McDill says, we need a good laugh these days. Believe me, I was not laughing on that mushroom trip. It was a bad trip. It was heavy, heavy shit. But I'll tell you, if you really want to know, the one and only time I've done magic mushrooms in Amsterdam. Oh, liberty-loving Beckel says, can't leave out the barbecue down here. That's orgasm in your mouth. Sounds rather appealing. G Money, I'll give him a hell yeah! He says, rock on, Johnny. Rock on, G Money. Like in the name. That's some old school hip-hop vibes right there. So, here we go. I like this. So, liberty-loving Beckles is embarrassed to ask anything. Why? Don't be shy, darling. I'm not going to bite your hand off. You can ask me anything, treacle. Darren Dawson says, I'm shocked, Johnny. You're single. I can't tell if this is sarcastic or real, but whatever the case, it is the truth. Highly Unlikely says, ha ha ha, my white scouse Rasta boyfriend is 10 years younger than me. He's going to be, I'm not going to say that. Is the age difference a problem, Johnny? Please advise me. That's a really tough one. If it was a younger girl, I would say it could be a problem. But from the perspective, I have to imagine, from the perspective of a woman, is it a problem to date a younger guy? I think it could be all right, you know. I think it's probably more difficult if it's a younger girl dating an older guy than a younger guy dating an older woman. I think young girls who want to date older guys, they're often going to have daddy issues, which means they probably had a fucked up childhood, which means they're probably more susceptible to mental diseases. And you don't want to end up with a girl who has borderline personality disorder, which is a classic mental disease stemming from an abusive childhood. So I'd be really careful about dating girls who are younger than you. 10 years is a long fucking way if the girl is younger than the guy. Now, if the guy is 10 years younger than you, maybe he's got some mummy issues and shit, but I don't see a lot of guys with borderline personality disorder kind of just being mentally ill everywhere. So I reckon it's probably okay. If he's 10 years younger than you, he might have a bit of a MILF kind of fetish. He might have that kind of thing going on, which is fine. I don't see a problem with that. You know, if you both enjoy it and you've got a bit of role play there, hey, go for it, I would say. And the only thing I'd be careful about is the maturity difference. So he's probably going to get upset and emotional much easier than you will, as long as you're not a psychopath. So that is going to be a difficult thing. You've got a lot more life experience. But hey, trying to be positive, if you are a good match and you're both not psychos and you get on well, his lack of experience could be a good thing because he's looking for someone to complement him. So his lack of experience, you can complement that with your experience. And then maybe if you're 10 years older, you might be a bit more stubborn and set in your ways. He can kind of make you feel more youthful and keep you fresh and purer. So I think it could work. White Rasta boyfriend, go for it. Make it happen. How was that for advice? Shit, I've never done that before. I thought that was all right advice. All right. Let's see what's coming next. So, Core Soldier Gaming TTV says, you actually helped me before on a relationship years ago. See, if you hit me up on my socials, then I'm going to fucking respond to you. I don't ignore anybody. I do my best to get back to everyone. Core Soldier says, I asked about moving to the UK to marry a bloke and the paperwork needed for it. After that, I gave up. Things went south. So happy because of it. So I told you not to go to the UK to marry this guy to get the paperwork. I definitely would have told you not to do that. I've seen so many people fuck their lives up for marrying for any other reason than love. Don't do it, motherfuckers. But you're not going to listen to me. You're going to do it anyways. I know. Lol. Natasha McDill says, lol, so you just need a sometimey relationship. Yeah, basically one of those. See, you might think I'm a conservative because I smash leftists all the time, but I'm basically a classical liberal. I'm all for that liberal shit. Like, you know, casual sex and one-night stands and stuff like that. Look, I'm not going to lie, having a meaningful relationship can be a fucking amazing thing. That ultimately that's best, right? Is being in love and having someone love you and loving someone. It's basically the meaning of life. But in modern culture, if you grow up in this modern liberal culture, what, you're not going to go to a club and if a chick wants to go home with you, you're not going to do that. So that perspective is very liberal, right? That's the opposite of a conservative. Real conservatives, like they're celibate. They won't have sex before marriage. And I actually think that is the best thing to do. I think that's just having casual sex with people. People like to think sex is casual, but I don't think there's such thing as casual sex. And any girl that really thinks it's just casual and isn't emotionally affected by it at all is kind of a bit weird, wouldn't you say? It's definitely a very, very intimate experience. So I guess what I'm saying is, I don't know, I've lost my train of thought talking about this kind of stuff. But yeah, I don't know what I'm fucking saying. I've totally lost my point, to be honest. I hope that helped. So we're running out of time now. I said I'd only do this for 45 minutes, but we'll do 5 minutes more. Let's see what you lot are saying. So, loving these comments. A bit more manageable today. See, losing popularity does have its benefits. Core Soldier says, aging difference in adults isn't always a problem as long as you can communicate with one another and have things in common. See, we should give this person his own show. Or is it her own show? That's what I wanted to say. Yeah, you might want to think about listening to Core Soldier _gaming TTV. Misuchi Miss, oh my God, that went from 0 to 10 pretty quick. Shit. Okay, swiftly moving on. Natasha McDill says, the universe is telling you it's not the right time for a relationship. Your calling and focus is this right here. People love to hear you talk about anything. I'll give up my sex life to give you the Johnny Massacre show. How about that? Fucking hell. It's totally worth it. Let's keep going. But I like that advice. Natasha McDill sounds wise, and it has a kind of spiritual tone to what she said. I really, really like that advice. But then a lot of people, you often see celebrities say, I couldn't have done it without my wife. And I'm thinking, bullshit! You'd be so much more successful without your wife constantly nagging you, right? Because you can't just focus 100% on your career. But then maybe... No, there's not women out there like that who can accept you just working the whole time. All the people, I think having kids is the real deal breaker. People I know who have kids, time for hobbies, none of that. They got no time for their hobbies. Don't want to put you off having kids. You don't want to end up in an old people's home alone, crippled, with Alzheimer's in a bed. But fuck it. That is my destiny. Wintin 1080, I'll give you a hell yeah for your $4.99 donation. This really, really makes a big difference. If you people donate generously every week, it means I can completely monetize from the Johnny Massacre show, and then the social justice warriors are in even more trouble than they already are. I'll be coming for them. Be coming for that ass. Winton 1080 says, watching your YouTube gives me hope for the future. Oh my God, what a sweet message. Much love from Wisconsin, USA. Yeah, man. Look, the pendulum's going to swing the other way. The leftists, they smashed it. Whether you think it's real or the F word, whatever your stance, look at them back in 2016 when they lost and old Trump got into power. They were just as distraught as Republicans and conservatives are now. They were, right? The end of the world. Hitler's here. This is going to end America, end of democracy. That's what people on the right are saying. I don't know if either of them were right about each other, but maybe we're all exaggerating a little bit, and the pendulum is going to swing the other way. It always does that. So, look, I know the F word is the wild card. That changes the whole dynamic of all the political scene right now, the political landscape. But even so, there's no one pointing a gun at your head in the ballot booth. And hopefully, if Republicans have any balls, they're going to stop that mail-in ballot bullshit. They're really going to push back hard on that. And the American people will come out and vote in such high numbers that they're simply not going to be able to do the F word on it, or it's going to be provable. So I said we wouldn't talk about politics. Right, let's keep going. Mark Hatfield says in relation to making a relationship work, if she likes donuts, it could work. This one girl I met in the club at an old school hip hop night, she came round once. You know what she fucking brought? She came over, a Japanese girl. Box of 6 fucking donuts. Not just any donuts. Japanese donuts, motherfucker. Oh, man. I showed you on a previous live stream. Mr. Donut. Mr. Donut is the Japanese donut store. And you can imagine. Look how Japanese people make chicken, prepare fish. It's on another level. Their desserts, another level. Donuts, oh my God. Japanese donuts, amazing. She brought 6 of those motherfuckers over. Opened the box like it was nothing. Put it in my... Baby, you were great. God, doing this is making me realize the existential relationship vacuum I have fallen into. And I fucking love it. Highly Unlikely says, brilliant, I'm not a psychopath. That really helps in relationships, not being a psychopath. If there's one piece of advice I'd like to give about getting into a relationship, do not get into a relationship with a mentally ill person. Unless they are managing well and they've shown to you over a long period of time they can manage their condition. Okay. Any more questions in the chamber? Gunshot. Lot of mercy. So, Wonka says, hey Johnny, I'm back again. Tell a friend. Wonka's in the house. Willy Wonka. Fucking golden ticket, man. Liberty Loving Beckle says, no, trust me, Johnny, the right woman in the corner will build you up better. That's some southern shit. See, this is why. That mentality I like. No wonder I want to go to the South in America to hear those beautiful southern accents. I think all trails lead to the South in America for me this year. Right, more comments. See what's going on. See, I thought I'd do 45 minutes, but I'm enjoying it so much. I just got to keep going. So, Wendy Hanegraaff says, some wives are worth it and willing to do whatever it takes to make sure her husband's dreams come true. Just saying. Shit. Do you know what? I don't know. I think it's me. I just attract these fucking people. I don't know what it is. I don't know what it is. You tell me. Look, I do have a bit of heroin chic and I look like a reformed British drug addict. But other than that, why would I possibly give off these dog whistles and secret signals to all these psychopaths? Couldn't imagine why. It's them. It's not me. It's all them. Core Soldier says, communication is hard with people in between the sexes if you can do it. Keep it up because it makes things run much smoother. That's true. So, Explicitly Wild says, Mr. Massacre, you're fucking awesome. You are the true definition of explicitly wild. Really? In this calm but colourful studio in Japan? You can be the judge. Benjamin Guilacto says, just got in at the last 20 minutes. Love listening in here. Thanks, Johnny. Thank you so much. It's weird. The live streams are so awesome. Once I get going, I don't want to stop. And it's all you. You are bringing all the energy. And I was kind of imagining that if this channel gets bigger, it's right, comment sections become unmanageable. But right now, I love the culture here. And as I said before, I don't know. I almost don't want the channel to become big. I said that before. I didn't want that because I want to keep this atmosphere. If the channel could become huge and keep this atmosphere, it would be ideal. But I love the atmosphere here. I love you people. I love talking to you. It's a really good vibe. And I think that must mean I am a good person. Even though I'm nihilistic, even though I've got a bit of the liberal pathogen in my mind, if I'm attracting people like you who are good-natured, on the whole, most of you, and are warm and kind, that means we share something in common. So, God, I learn a lot about myself on this show. Let's keep going. Wonkers says, I can't read your comment, mate. Too political. Taking back that golden ticket. Liberty-loving Beckel says, I manage my stuff well. And here's the other thing. That was a bit harsh on people who are mentally ill. Do you know what? Every single date I've gone on, the last 20, every single girl I spoke to mentioned depression, anxiety, or I had a difficult time. And I realized pretty much every single motherfucker in existence has gone through something. But there's levels. Very interesting stuff. Hello, Johnny, says Beth Converse. I love you. A lot of mercy. Ruffy D, I'm going to give him a hell yeah, who says, I hereby award you my, quote, new favourite channel discovery of 2020, end quote, a distinguished achievement that comes around only once a year. Hell yeah! Hell yeah! $10 donation from Ruffy D. Thank you so much. It means a lot. If you want to get your comments read out quicker, you've got to hit that donation. So, Benjamin Gulatko says, but then how do you know someone's insane? It's very well hidden sometimes. You can insane people cannot hide their insanity. You just need to know them for 6 months and be around them on a regular basis. The timekeeping, the things they say, you know, their mean-spiritedness sometimes when they get anxious or get hyper-emotional or into states of psychosis or hypomania, it is clear to see. Maybe it takes one to know one. Natasha McDill says, have you been to America? Sorry, I'm still new. No, I haven't, but I'd love to go. And I'm planning to come this year. But the thing is, if I come, I might not be able to come back to Japan, which would be difficult. Wonkers says, I agree. Mentally ill people use their disorder as an excuse. And this is true. That was basically my last relationship where my last girlfriend used her mental illness as a reason to smear me to old friends. And there you go. And the thing is, only for so long you can explain away somebody's abusive actions. So, okay, this girl said this to me and did this to me and said this to my friends, but she's mentally ill, so it's not her fault. At some point, there will come a point where you just can't take it anymore. And even though it's not them, so to speak, it's the illness, it's just unworkable because people aim down. And when people aim down, they die. And you either go with them and die too, trying to help them, or you save yourself. And often helping these people is not what they need. It can make them worse, because you supporting them and being a crutch means that they're not going to develop properly and learn the hard way, because you're taking so much of the slack, at which point they become so reliant upon you and haven't developed their own sense of independence and responsibility that they're not able to do that anymore, and then they can't function. Then they're really fucked. Life is strange like that. It's not black and white. Sometimes even the best intentioned things can fuck things up so badly. Pursuit of utopia, for example, lovely idea on paper. In reality, the pursuit of utopia can make a communist hell like in Russia. So, yeah, some people are kind of beyond help, but I've met a lot of mentally ill people, and I've had some very close to me. Some have died, unfortunately. Some have recovered, and some are still managing or dealing with it. And I will say that some mentally ill people who are seriously mentally ill are just bad people, right? Some people are bad people and they're mentally ill. And some people are mentally ill, but they're the best, nicest people ever. And they're going through a lot of shit. But in spite of that, when they do succumb to their illness and they shout or get angry, they will come back later and admit it. And they'll really work hard on managing it for your sake. But it's such a tough one. Mental illness is one of the most fascinating topics out there. I could talk about this shit for hours, because although we've studied it a lot, people still have no idea about it. And because I've known so many people who are mentally ill, I feel I'm quite an authority on this. I think my level of emotional intelligence to people who are sick like that is super high. So maybe we can talk about that on the next Johnny Massacre show. Quite a heavy topic. But for me, no topic is too dark or too depressing, because that's life. Life is joy and happiness and satisfaction and pain and suffering, and they both define each other. Your pleasure is only as pleasurable as your suffering allows it to be. Your suffering helps define your sense of pleasure and vice versa. If it were dark every day, you wouldn't even know what light is. So you need to have some darkness to know what light is. And so I love talking about these because it makes me feel alive, and this is part of life. And or it might be a bit sad. It might make me feel sad and stuff, but I like that. I like feeling alive, and I like feeling emotions. So mental illness, really interesting topic. See, I got all serious there. Liberty Loving Beckle says, my husband has very bad mental problems and doesn't handle them well, and it's caused a major rift. We have 3 boys together, so I can't just leave. Man, I'm so sorry. That's really, really, really hard. But you know what? You, my friend, are a fucking hero. You are a fucking hero, because you know what? And here we go. See, I'm going to say some trash against men now, right? Because all you hear from the left is how men are so fucking terrible. This, that, and a third. And I don't descend to that. But I will tell you, look at statistics. It's always the mother that stays with the family. It's everywhere around you. Just use your fucking eyes. You don't need to see the data. The men are the first ones to go. And I believe if you stick your dick in a woman and you knock her up, it's not like that shit happens by accident. You fucking did that. If you do that and you have a kid, I don't care how bad your relationship is with your wife. You fucking stay with your wife for the kid's sake. The kid never asked to be brought into this world. You brought them into this world. And because you did that, that's a life you fucking made there. So you suffer. You stay in a relationship you didn't like. So the reason I'm saying that is because you, darling, are a fucking legend. You are suffering for your children. And you know what? That kind of suffering is the most meaningful suffering that there is. How to deal with suffering. See, this is a big thing for me. 10 years ago, I suffered more than I did now. And I suffer less now because I realized suffering is inevitable and we have to accept it. And not only that, suffering is necessary. And the best way to deal with suffering and to overcome suffering is to realize there is meaning in suffering. And I believe there isn't just meaning in suffering. I believe suffering is pretty much the meaning of life. And whereas everyone tries to fight it and they go against suffering and they play the victim. Oh, why me? Why is this happening to me? Or they blame other people. Look what they did to me. Look at this oppressive system. Look at this racism. You know what? People like that will be forever miserable. But the people who own their suffering, those are the people who will develop spiritually as people and become the most awesome, toughest people there are. I strongly, strongly believe that. Absolutely believe that. And you need to suffer for a reason. And if you can do that, suffering is bearable. And your 3 beautiful children is the greatest meaning in your life. And so you're suffering for a reason for them. And I promise you, when you get out the other side of this, you're going to have an aura, an angelic aura that other people are just magnetized to, and they want to be around you because you put yourself through that experience and you've enriched your soul. I promise you that's what's going to happen. So please be strong. And I love you for doing that for your 3 kids. The world needs more people like you. You are beautiful and amazing. Thank you. And your kids, they're going to understand one day as well. I'm telling you, they're going to come back and they're going to realize everything you've done for them. So, ending on quite an emotional note there. Quite an emotional note. Explicitly Wild says, explicitly wild is, and I quote, as clear as a motherfucker can get without confusion or doubt, living and growing in a natural environment, not to be tamed or domesticated. Oh shit, that's a dictionary definition. Okay, I guess that's me. So, I really went off on one then. There's so much more I want to read. There's so much more I want to read. Liberty-loving Beckle says, my depression and anxiety comes from childhood abuse and domestic abuse. We got to talk, dude. We got to talk. But I can't save you. Like someone else said, you can only save yourself. And once you realize that, you'll be able to get better. The problem is some people are so beaten down, they need someone to lift them up. And that's one of the most difficult points. And then that conversation leads into government support and, health insurance and, all that kind of stuff, which the government has a responsibility to take care of, but they don't do it enough. They don't do it enough in England. Mentally ill people are not supported. When it's so common, I tell you what, if I ran for president, that would be top of the fucking list. You talk about this socialism, like giving money back to... How about we give money to people that are suffering so badly right now from mental illness, the people who need help the most? Anyways. I did want to get onto the topic of favorite video games, but we didn't get there. So we're going to do that on the next cheeky live stream, number 6. Liberty Loving Beckles. Well, I'm not going to read her comment because it's very personal, but you can read it if you really want to. Just want to say you are welcome. Natasha McDill says, you have a talent beyond politics. You should do a show on how to overcome suffering. I don't think I'm quite there yet, but I could definitely give some really good advice. I mean, I could tell you the real... No one knows my real story, right? What is my story? Do you know? But it's not about me. I mean, who fucking cares? The point is, it's about you. It's about you. And if you weren't here, what? I'd be sitting in front of this camera, like just speaking to myself. It's all about you. So I'm all right. Don't worry about me. And let me use my brain power to try to share some energy and lift the people up. Okay, Highly Unlikely says, I gotta go. Thanks, Johnny. Thanks, everyone. Core Soldier says, sometimes we need a little help to see the light to get out and to show us the way to help ourselves. Agreed. Darren Dawson says, I adopted a little boy. Best thing I ever did. He has brought so much joy to my life. Wonka says, oh, hell yeah! And I'm going to leave it on that positive note. So fucking hell. We went from Japanese food to fucking catfish to my shitty relationship advice to my awesome mental health advice. And that's the Johnny Massacre show. And the Massacre Moment Live, and the cheeky live stream. And I tell you what, mates, you lot better be back for the next cheeky live stream. Otherwise, I'll be coming around your house. Make sure to like and subscribe, and hit that notification bell, because that is what all those other cunts tell you to do.